The sound of shattering glass made Dr. Rachel Quinn drop the medication bottle she had been labeling. The reinforced front window of her veterinary clinic exploded inward, showering the waiting room with glittering fragments. Before Rachel could process what was happening, an enormous scaled body crashed through the doorway, ripping the metal frame from its hinges. Rachel stumbled backward, her heart hammering against her ribs. The creature filling her small clinic was unlike anything she had ever seen. Midnight blue scales covered a body the size of a cargo transport. Wings folded tight against its back scraped the ceiling. Golden eyes, wide with panic, fixed on Rachel as the creature let out a desperate keening sound. "Please," the dragon gasped in broken galactic common. "My child, dying, you help." Rachel's professional training kicked in before her fear could paralyze her. The massive creature was cradling something against its chest with surprising gentleness. As the dragon lowered itself, trying to fit into the space meant for dogs and cats, Rachel saw what it held. A small dragon, no bigger than a terrier, lay limp in those careful claws. Its scales were dull gray instead of the brilliant blue of its parent. The child's breathing came in shallow, rattling gasps. Rachel moved closer without thinking, her hands already reaching out to assess the patient. "How long has he been like this?" Rachel asked, her voice steady despite the surreal situation. 3 weeks, the dragon replied, its voice thick with anguish. "Ship core broke. Radiation. Every hospital say no. Too dangerous, they say. Dragon's too dangerous to help." Rachel gently touched the small dragon's snout. The scales felt wrong, brittle and cold when they should have been warm and flexible. She had no idea what dragon biology was supposed to be like, but she knew what dying looked like in any species. "Bring him to the exam table," Rachel said, pointing to her largest table meant for Great Danes and similar breeds. "Carefully." The large dragon, moving with incredible precision despite its size, placed the child on the table. Rachel activated her diagnostic scanner, hoping it would give her something useful. The readings that appeared made no sense. Where she expected to see blood flow, the scanner showed crystalline patterns. Where organs should be, there were structures that defied her understanding. "What's your name?" Rachel asked as she worked, trying to keep the dragon calm. "Dravis," the dragon said. "Child is Pip, please, you must save him." Rachel's assistant, Derek, appeared in the doorway to the back room. His eyes went wide at the sight before him, but to his credit, he did not run. Rachel had trained him well. "Derek, I need the thermal lamps we use for the reptiles, all of them, and get me the emergency oxygen setup." Rachel turned to Dravis. "His temperature is dropping. That's what's causing the breathing problems." While Derek rushed to gather equipment, Rachel examined Pip more closely. The radiation damage was severe. Whatever powered this little dragon's body was failing. The crystalline structures she saw on the scanner were breaking down, fragmenting into smaller and smaller pieces. "In dragon physiology," Dravis said, his voice shaking, "the crystal network carries life energy. Like your blood carries oxygen. Pip's network is shattering. Once it breaks completely, he will die." Rachel positioned the heat lamps around Pip, adjusting them until the small dragon's body temperature began to rise. The child's breathing eased slightly, becoming less labored. It was a small victory, but Rachel would take what she could get. "I've never treated a dragon before," Rachel admitted, pulling up a communication terminal. "But I know someone who might be able to help." She dialed the quantum link to her old professor, Dr. Howard Mills, who now worked at the University of New Earth. His face appeared on the screen, looking annoyed at being disturbed during his evening hours. Then he saw what was on Rachel's exam table. "Is that a dragon?" Mills asked, his irritation vanishing into scientific curiosity. "A dying one," Rachel confirmed. "His crystal network is fragmenting from radiation exposure. I need theoretical guidance here, Howard. I'm working blind." Mills leaned closer to his screen, studying the scanner readings Rachel transmitted to him. Fascinating. The dragon biology operates on completely different principles than carbon-based life. Those crystals aren't just carrying energy. They're storing it, transforming it, distributing it. It's like their entire body is one massive battery and computer combined. Can I fix it? Rachel asked bluntly. I have no idea, Mills said honestly, but let's figure it out together. For the next several hours, Rachel worked with Mills, guiding her remotely. She treated Pip the way she would treat heavy metal poisoning in earth lizards, trying to filter out the radiation-damaged particles from the child's system. She rigged up a makeshift dialysis machine using aquarium filters and medical tubing, hoping the principle would work across species. Outside, word had spread through the colony. People gathered in the street, some fearful, others curious. Dravis was too large to fit inside the clinic, so he pressed his face against the broken window, watching every move Rachel made. His golden eyes never left his child. As dawn approached, Pip's condition stabilized. The small dragon was still critically ill, but he was no longer actively dying. Rachel leaned against the exam table, exhausted but cautiously hopeful. He's stable, she told Dravis. But this is just buying time. The damage to his crystal network is still there. Without a way to repair it, he'll deteriorate again. Dravis lowered his massive head, and Rachel realized the dragon was crying. Crystalline tears rolled down his scaled face, catching the morning light. You tried, Dravis said softly. No one else would even try. You gave him a chance. More than anyone in the galaxy was willing to give. Rachel looked at the small dragon breathing steadily under her heat lamps. She thought about every hospital that had turned this father away, every doctor who had let fear override compassion. Something hardened in her chest, a determination she had not felt since her first days in veterinary school. I'm not done yet, Rachel said firmly. I won't let this baby die. We'll find a way. Rachel had not slept in 36 hours. Her clinic looked like a disaster zone crossed with a science experiment gone wrong. Cables ran everywhere, connecting equipment that was never designed to work together. Pip lay in the center of it all, breathing steadily but still frighteningly weak. Derek brought her another cup of coffee, which she accepted gratefully. Through the broken window, she could see Dravis curled in the street outside. The massive dragon had not moved except to accept food from brave colonists who had overcome their fear enough to help. The colony administrator is here, Derek said quietly. She wants to talk to you. Bate Williams entered through the ruined doorway, picking her way carefully around the debris. She was a practical woman in her 50s, someone who had helped establish this colony when it was nothing but empty land and big dreams. Her expression was unreadable as she surveyed the chaos. Dr. Quinn, Bates said formally, we need to discuss this situation. Rachel steeled herself for an order to remove Dravis and Pip from the colony. Instead, Bates surprised her by sitting down in one of the intact waiting room chairs. Half the colony is terrified, Bate continued. The other half is bringing food and blankets for a dragon sitting in our main street. I've received 47 formal complaints and 63 offers of assistance. This is unprecedented. Are you asking me to send them away? Rachel asked, hearing the defensiveness in her own voice. Bates shook her head. I'm asking what you need to save that child. The simple statement of support nearly made Rachel cry from relief and exhaustion. She pulled up her notes on the terminal, showing Bate the problem. Pip's crystal network is the issue. Think of it like his circulatory system, except instead of blood vessels, it's crystalline structures that carry energy through his body. The radiation shattered parts of that network. I've stabilized him, but I can't repair the damage. What would repair it? Bate asked. A biocompatible crystalline matrix, Rachel said. Something that can integrate with his natural system and replace the damaged sections. But according to Dravis, those only exist in dragon homeworlds or specialized medical facilities, places that won't sell to humans trying to help dragons. Bait was quiet for a moment, thinking, what if we made one? Rachel blinked. Made one, Bait? We're talking about biocompatible alien tissue. This isn't something you can just fabricate. Maybe not normally, Bait agreed. But Yuki Tanaka might have ideas. She's been working with crystalline power systems for the new solar array. If anyone in this colony could engineer something like this, it's her. Within an hour, Yuki Tanaka stood in the clinic, examining the scanner readings of Pip's damaged crystal network. The engineer was young, barely 30, but she had a reputation for solving impossible problems. She chewed her lower lip as she studied the data, occasionally glancing at the small dragon. The structure is beautiful, Yuki said softly. It's like someone designed a power grid that's also alive. Each crystal stores energy, transforms it, and passes it along. When part of the grid fails, the whole system suffers. Can you replicate it? Rachel asked. Maybe, Yuki said carefully. The fabrication equipment I use for power crystals operates on similar principles, but those are inert materials. Making something that a living body will accept and integrate with is completely different. Dr. Mills, still connected via holographic projection, leaned forward. What if we used Pip's own tissue as a template? Take samples from the undamaged sections of his network and use them as a blueprint for the fabrication process. Yuki's eyes lit up. That could work. The biocompatibility would come from matching his existing structure exactly. We'd essentially be growing artificial tissue based on his natural pattern. Rachel felt hope surge in her chest. How long would it take? Days, maybe weeks, Yuki admitted. I'll need to modify my equipment, run dozens of tests, and there's no guarantee it will work. We're literally inventing a new medical procedure here. Then we better get started, Rachel said. The next week became a blur of activity. Rachel maintained Pip's condition with supportive care while Yuki worked in her engineering lab. Dr. Mills coordinated with other scientists across human space, bringing in expertise from fields as diverse as crystallography and regenerative medicine. What they were attempting had never been done before. Dravis became part of the colony during this time. Children who had been terrified of him grew curious when they saw him carefully accepting offerings of food. He told stories about dragon culture to anyone who would listen, his deep voice carrying through the streets. Parents who had demanded he leave found themselves sympathizing with his devotion to his child. In dragon society, Dravis explained one evening to a group of gathered colonists, we believe that a parent's greatest duty is to protect and nurture the young. I have failed at this. I could not protect Pip from the radiation. I could not find help from those who should have provided it. If not for humans, for Rachel, my son would be dead. An older woman in the crowd spoke up. You didn't fail. You brought him to someone who could help. That's what good parents do. Dravis bowed his massive head. Your species is brave in ways mine is not. You do not let fear stop you from showing compassion. In her lab, Yuki was on her 17th attempt at fabricating the crystal matrix. Each failure taught her something new, brought her closer to success. She barely slept, driven by the knowledge that a child's life depended on her work. Rachel checked on Pip constantly, monitoring every vital sign. The small dragon had started responding to voices, his eyes tracking movement even though he was too weak to lift his head. Once, when Rachel was adjusting his heat lamps, Pip made a small chirping sound. I know, little one, Rachel said softly. We're working on it, you just hold on. On the evening of the 9th day, Yuki burst into the clinic, her face flushed with excitement. In her hands, she carried a small containment unit. Inside, a delicate crystalline structure glowed with soft blue light. It's stable, Yuki announced. The biocompatible matrix is ready. It should integrate with Pip's natural network and repair the damaged sections. Rachel took the container carefully, studying the artificial crystal. It looked fragile, impossibly delicate, but its structure matched Pip's own tissue perfectly. "Now comes the hard part," Rachel said. "I have to implant this into his network without causing more damage." She looked at the small dragon, then at Dravis watching through the window, then at the crowd of colonists who had gathered to support this impossible effort. They had come so far. She would not let them down now. "Let's save this child," Rachel said. Rachel laid out her surgical instruments with hands that wanted to shake, but did not dare. The crystal matrix sat in its containment unit, pulsing with a gentle rhythm that almost looked like breathing. Pip was sedated, his small chest rising and falling slowly under the anesthetic gas Derek had carefully calibrated for his alien physiology. Dr. Mill's holographic form stood beside the operating table, ready to guide her through the procedure they had planned together. Yuki was present too, ready to make adjustments to the crystal matrix if needed. Outside, the entire colony seemed to be holding its breath. Dravis pressed against the window, his golden eyes never leaving his son. "Before we begin," Mills said quietly, "I want you to know that what you're attempting has never been done. Not by any species in the known galaxy. If it fails, it's not because of anything you did wrong." "If it fails, a child dies," Rachel said bluntly, "so it won't fail." She made the first incision with a precision laser, following the pattern of Pip's crystal network that showed on her scanner. The young dragon's physiology was still alien to her, but she had spent days studying it, learning its rhythms and patterns. Where a mammal would bleed, crystalline fluid welled up, glowing faintly in the surgical lights. "I'm accessing the primary network junction," Rachel narrated, as much for her own focus as for Mill's guidance. "The damaged section is visible. Fragments are floating in the fluid instead of forming coherent structures." She used a specially designed tool to clear away the shattered crystal fragments, working with the care of someone defusing a bomb. Each piece she removed could potentially destabilize the entire network. Pip's vital signs flickered on the monitor, staying steady but fragile. "Network flow is dropping," Derek called out, watching the readings. "His energy distribution is failing." "I see it," Rachel said. She worked faster, clearing the damaged area completely. Now came the truly experimental part. She lifted the artificial matrix from its container, holding it with magnetic forceps. "The matrix needs to integrate within 30 seconds, Yuki said, monitoring her equipment. "After that, the biological bonding window closes and it becomes inert material." Rachel nodded, positioning the crystal carefully. The artificial structure had been designed to slot into Pip's network like a replacement part, but biology was never as simple as engineering. She lowered it into place, watching as it made contact with the living crystal around it. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the artificial matrix began to glow brighter. The damaged network around it pulsed, reaching out with microscopic tendrils. Rachel watched in amazement as Pip's body recognized the new crystal as part of itself and began integrating it. "It's working," Mills breathed. "The network is accepting the matrix." But then Pip's monitors screamed alarms. His energy flow spiked wildly, surging through the new matrix faster than it was designed to handle. The artificial crystal began to crack under the strain. "It's rejecting," Yuki shouted. "The integration is happening too fast. The matrix can't handle the power flow." Rachel's mind raced. The crystal was perfect in structure but not in function. Pip's body was trying to use it at full capacity immediately, before it had time to stabilize. She needed to slow down the integration process, give the matrix time to strengthen. "Derek, reduce his core temperature by 2 degrees, Rachel ordered. "It should slow his metabolism and reduce the energy demand." "That's dangerous," Mills warned. "Too much cooling and his network could shut down completely." "More dangerous than doing nothing," Rachel shot back. Derek adjusted the cooling system. Pip's body temperature dropped slightly. The wild energy surges eased, becoming more manageable pulses. The artificial matrix stopped cracking, its structure holding under the reduced stress. Rachel worked quickly, using medical adhesive to reinforce the connections between the matrix and Pip's natural network. She had learned that dragon crystal structures bonded naturally over time, but they needed support during the initial integration period. She created tiny bridges of bonding material, giving the network stability while it healed itself. Hours passed. Rachel's back ached from bending over the small patient. Her eyes burned from the intense focus. But gradually, Pip's network began to function as a whole again. Energy flowed through the artificial matrix as smoothly as through his natural crystal. The damaged section was repaired. Vital signs are stabilizing, Derek reported. Energy distribution is reaching normal levels across the entire network. Rachel closed the incision, sealing it with medical adhesive designed for dragon scales. She had done everything she could. Now it was up to Pip's body to finish the healing process. She stepped back from the table, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. "You did it," Yuki said softly. "You actually did it." Outside, someone must have seen Rachel's expression through the window. A cheer went up from the crowd of colonists. Dravis pressed closer, trying to see his son. "He's alive," Rachel told the dragon father. "The matrix integrated successfully. He needs time to recover, but the worst is over." Dravis made a sound that was part sob, part roar of relief. "You saved him. You saved my son." Over the next 3 days, Pip's recovery was remarkable. The small dragon woke from sedation with bright eyes and alert movements. His scales regained their brilliant blue color, shimmering with health. When he saw Rachel approaching his recovery cage, he chirped happily and tried to climb the bars to reach her. "Easy there," Rachel laughed, opening the cage to check his healing incision. "You're still recovering." Pip climbed onto her shoulder, nuzzling against her neck with his small snout. The gesture was universal across species, a child seeking comfort from someone they trusted. Dr. Mills observed through the holographic connection, making notes. "This is unprecedented. The artificial matrix is not just functioning, it's growing with him. It's becoming part of his natural system completely." "Could this technique work for other dragons?" Yuki asked. "Or even other species with similar physiology?" "Potentially," Mills said. "Rachel, you've just pioneered a completely new field of xenobiological medicine. This will change everything." But Rachel was not thinking about scientific breakthroughs or medical advances. She was watching Pip play with a ball Derek had given him, pouncing on it with the energy of any healthy child. She was thinking about how close they had come to losing him, and how many others like him might have died because no one was willing to try. "It shouldn't take a miracle to get medical care," Rachel said quietly. "It shouldn't matter what species you are. If someone is sick, they deserve treatment. That's what medicine is supposed to be about." Dravis, listening through the window, bowed his massive head in agreement. In dragon culture, such words would be remembered and honored. In human culture, they were simply the truth. The warning came through official channels at dawn on Pip's 5th day of recovery. Administrator Bate Williams received the transmission from an approaching ship and immediately rushed to Rachel's clinic, which still had not had its front window properly repaired. "We have a problem," Bate announced, holding up her communication tablet. "The Galactic Health Authority is sending a ship. They're demanding immediate access to Pip and all your research data." Rachel felt ice settle in her stomach. She had known this was coming but had hoped for more time. On what grounds? Apparently, treating a Class 7 dangerous entity without proper authorization is a violation of galactic health protocols, Bate read from the message. They're claiming jurisdiction over dragon medical cases. Dravis, who had been outside as always, let out a growl that shook the building. They come to steal him. After refusing to help, now they come to take him. "They can't just take a patient from my clinic," Rachel protested. "According to galactic law, they can," Bates said grimly. Human colonies operate under Galactic Health Authority in matters involving alien species. They have 6 hours to arrive and expect full compliance. Rachel looked at Pip, who was sleeping peacefully in his recovery area. The small dragon had started following her everywhere, had learned to chirp his version of her name, trusted her completely. The thought of him being taken by people who had refused to help him made her blood boil. "Then we have 6 hours to prepare," Rachel said. Word spread through the colony faster than any official announcement. By the time the Galactic Health Authority ship entered orbit, over 300 colonists had gathered around the clinic. Parents brought their children. Elderly couples stood arm in arm. The message was clear. If the GHA wanted to take Pip, they would have to go through the entire community. The GHA representative who arrived was a Centaurian named Dr. Sylvanus Roth. He was tall and elegant, with crystalline skin that refracted light in calculated patterns. His expression held nothing but cold professionalism as he surveyed the crowd of humans blocking his path. "This gathering is illegal," Roth announced in perfect galactic common. "Interfering with GHA operations carries severe penalties." Bate Williams stepped forward. "This is a peaceful assembly on colony property. We have every right to be here." "You are harboring a dangerous entity that should be in proper quarantine," Roth countered. "The dragon child must be transferred to a GHA facility for assessment and appropriate care." "Appropriate care?" Rachel pushed through the crowd, furious. "Where was appropriate care 3 weeks ago when this child was dying? Where was the GHA when every hospital in the sector refused to treat him?" Roth's expression did not change. "Dragons are classified as Class 7 dangerous entities. Treatment protocols require specialized facilities with proper containment measures. Your clinic is not authorized for such work." "My clinic is the only place that was willing to help," Rachel shot back. "And Pip is healthy now. The GHA has no grounds to take him." "Your unauthorized research and experimental procedures are exactly why GHA oversight exists," Roth said. He pulled up a holographic display showing official documents. "According to Regulation 447, subsection 12, any experimental xenobiological procedures must be approved by the GHA prior to implementation. You violated this regulation." Derek, standing beside Rachel, whispered urgently, "He's not here for Pip's well-being. He's here to shut down what you did before other people try it." Rachel realized Derek was right. The GHA did not care about one dragon child. They cared that a human with basic veterinary equipment had succeeded where their expensive hospitals had refused to try. They cared that their authority had been undermined by compassion. "I want to see the regulation that says letting a child die is preferable to trying to save them," Rachel said loudly, making sure the crowd heard. "Show me the law that says fear trumps medicine." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the colonists. Roth's perfect composure showed its first crack of irritation. "The law is clear," Roth insisted. "The dragon child will be transferred to GHA custody for proper evaluation. Your research will be confiscated as evidence of regulatory violations. You will face charges for unauthorized xenobiological experimentation." "No," a deep voice rumbled. Dravis moved forward, his massive form making even the armed GHA enforcers step back. "You will not take my son. You refused to help when he was dying. You have no right to him now." "The dragon is classified as dangerous," one of the enforcers said nervously, hand moving toward his weapon. "We are authorized to use force if necessary." The crowd of colonists moved closer, forming a tighter barrier around the clinic. Parents held their children close, showing they understood what Pip represented. An elderly man spoke up, his voice carrying across the gathering. "I'm a retired admiral," he said. "Served 40 years protecting human colonies. I know what real danger looks like, and that baby dragon is not it. The only danger here is people who let laws matter more than lives. Others voiced their support. A woman whose child had been treated by Rachel spoke about how Rachel had saved her daughter's life when no one else could help. A young couple talked about Travis helping them move furniture when their transport broke down, showing his gentleness despite his size. Roth watched the crowd with calculating eyes. Your colony will face sanctions for this interference. Trade restrictions, travel limitations, reduced galactic standing. Is one alien child worth that price? Yes, Bate Williams said simply. The crowd echoed her sentiment. Rachel pulled out her own communication device. I've been documenting everything since Pip arrived. Every treatment, every decision, every breakthrough. I've been sending reports to colleagues across human space and beyond. The galactic community knows what happened here. They know the GHA refused to help a dying child and is now trying to punish those who did. Public opinion is irrelevant, Roth said dismissively. Is it? Rachel pulled up her own holographic display, showing news feeds from dozens of worlds. The story of Pip had spread far beyond this one colony. Humans across space were outraged at the GHA's actions. More surprisingly, other species were beginning to speak up too. A message feed showed a statement from a group of Centaurian medical students condemning the GHA's policies. A coalition of smaller species had filed a formal complaint about discriminatory treatment protocols. Even some dragon communities, long isolated, were reaching out to express gratitude for Rachel's actions. Roth's crystalline skin patterns shifted, showing genuine surprise for the first time. This is unprecedented. Good, Rachel said. Maybe it's time for precedent to change. The standoff continued for hours. Roth tried various legal and political pressures. The colonists did not budge. Travis made it clear he would physically defend his son if necessary. Rachel refused to surrender her research or her patient. As evening fell, a new ship entered orbit. This one was massive, dwarfing the GHA vessel. Its design was unmistakable, a dragon ship, something rarely seen in this sector of space. A transmission came through on all channels. This is Matriarch Cythera of the Dragon Conclave. We are here regarding the human who saved a dragon child. 5 dragons descended from the massive ship, their forms blocking out the fatting sunlight. Each was different in color and size, but all carried an air of ancient authority that made even Dr. Roth step back instinctively. The largest dragon, scales shimmering in deep purple with veins of gold, landed gracefully despite her size. I am Matriarch Cythera, she announced, her voice resonating through the air like distant thunder. I speak for the Dragon Conclave. Where is the healer who saved young Pip? Rachel stepped forward, trying not to show how intimidated she felt. I'm Dr. Rachel Quinn. I treated Pip when he was brought to my clinic. Cythera's massive head lowered, bringing her face level with Rachel's. Ancient eyes studied the human woman with an intensity that felt like being examined under a microscope. You are small. Your facility is damaged. Your equipment is primitive by galactic standards, yet you succeeded where the entire medical establishment failed. How? I didn't give up, Rachel said simply. Pip needed help. His father asked me to help, so I did. One of the other dragons, smaller with bright red scales, moved closer to examine the clinic. The techniques she used are documented. Improvised dialysis, thermal regulation, artificial crystal matrix integration. She invented procedures that did not exist. May I see the child? Cythera asked. Rachel led the matriarch inside, where Pip was playing with Derek. The small dragon saw Cythera and immediately chirped a greeting in dragon language, completely unafraid. He bounded over to Rachel, climbing up her leg to perch on her shoulder. Rachel saved me, Pip announced proudly in common, his pronunciation still childish but clear. She's my healer. Cythera's expression softened in a way Rachel had not expected. The ancient dragon reached out one claw, gently touching Pip's snout in what was clearly a gesture of affection. "May I examine you, little one?" With Rachel's permission, Cythera conducted her own examination. Her methods were different from anything Rachel had seen, involving crystalline instruments that seemed to resonate with Pip's own network. When she finished, the matriarch was silent for a long moment. "The artificial matrix is extraordinary," Cythera finally said. "It has integrated so completely that I can barely distinguish it from natural tissue. Moreover, it is growing with him, adapting to his development. This should not be possible with fabricated material." "Yuki Tanaka designed it," Rachel said. "She's the engineer who created the matrix based on Pip's own tissue samples." Cythera turned to look at Yuki, who had been standing nervously near the back of the room. "You are not a healer, yet you created living crystal." "I work with power systems," Yuki explained. "Crystal matrices for energy storage and distribution. When I saw Pip's network, I realized it operated on similar principles to what I already knew. I just adapted my existing knowledge to a biological application." The red-scaled dragon spoke up. "Ingenious." She saw the pattern beneath the differences. "This is how true innovation happens." Cythera moved back outside, where the crowd of colonists still waited alongside Dr. Roth and his increasingly uncomfortable enforcers. The matriarch's presence seemed to fill the entire space. "I have heard the story of what happened here," Cythera announced, her voice carrying to everyone present. "A father desperate to save his child, medical facilities that refused out of fear, a human healer who said yes when all others said no, a community that protected both healer and patient. This is not just medicine. This is courage." Roth stepped forward carefully. "Matriarch, with respect, the GHA has jurisdiction over medical matters involving endangered species. Dragons fall under that classification." "Endangered?" Cythera's laugh was like rolling thunder. "We dragons are not endangered. We are isolated by choice because species like yours made us unwelcome in the galactic community. You classified us as dangerous, refused us treatment, pushed us away, and then you called it protection." "The classifications exist for public safety," Roth protested. "They exist because fear is easier than understanding," Cythera countered. "My people have avoided the galactic community for generations because we knew we would be rejected. Dravis broke that isolation out of desperation. He expected nothing. He received everything." She gestured toward Rachel. "This human saw a dying child, not a dangerous creature. She saw a parent's pain, not a political classification." Another dragon from the conclave, this one silver with blue patterns, spoke. "We have been watching the developments here with great interest. The human approach to Pip's treatment demonstrates something we have not seen from other species: the willingness to try despite uncertainty. The galactic medical community operates on established protocols," Roth said stiffly. "Deviation from those protocols creates risk." "Those protocols left Pip to die," Dravis growled. "Rachel's willingness to deviate saved him." Cythera turned her attention back to Rachel. "The Dragon Conclave wishes to make a proposal. We want to establish a medical exchange program. Humans will teach us your innovative approaches, your willingness to experiment and adapt. In return, we will share dragon healing knowledge accumulated over thousands of years." Rachel blinked in surprise. "You're serious?" "Completely," Cythera confirmed. "For too long, our species have remained separate from the galactic community. That isolation has cost lives on both sides. Pip's survival proves that cooperation benefits everyone." Dr. Mills, still connected holographically, leaned forward excitedly. "This would be the first formal medical cooperation between dragons and any other species in recorded history. The research possibilities are endless." "The GHA would never approve such a program," Roth said. "Then the GHA will find itself irrelevant," Cythera replied calmly. We dragons have resources, knowledge, and now willingness to participate in galactic affairs. We will work with partners who respect life over protocol. If the GHA wishes to maintain its authority, it must reform its practices. The Silver Dragon added, "We are also prepared to share dragon medical knowledge publicly. No longer will our healing techniques be secrets. Any species that wishes to learn will have access." Roth looked genuinely shocked. That would destabilize the entire galactic medical infrastructure. "Good," Cythera said. "An infrastructure that prioritizes profit and control over healing needs destabilization." Rachel Quinn proved that with basic equipment and determination, impossible problems can be solved. Imagine what could be achieved if the entire galaxy embraced that philosophy. The crowd of colonists erupted in cheers. Rachel felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. She had just wanted to save one patient. Now she was at the center of a potential revolution in galactic medicine. Pip chirped happily from her shoulder, completely unconcerned with the political implications. He was just happy to be alive, healthy, and surrounded by people who cared about him. Bate Williams stepped forward. "What about the GHA's demands? Will they still try to take Pip and confiscate the research?" Cythera fixed Roth with a stare that could have melted steel. "The GHA will do no such thing. Pip remains with his father, who may choose to stay in this colony if he wishes. Rachel's research will be shared freely for the benefit of all species. Any attempt to interfere will be seen as an act of aggression against the Dragon Conclave." Roth knew when he was defeated. He made a stiff bow. "The GHA will need to review our protocols regarding dragon medical care." "See that you do," Cythera said. 3 months had passed since the Dragon Conclave's arrival changed everything. Rachel's small veterinary clinic had been transformed into something unprecedented, the Interspecies Medical Institute. The building had been expanded, the broken window replaced with a massive transparent wall that allowed natural light to flood the treatment areas. Students from 17 different species studied in the classrooms Yuki had helped design. 3 young dragons, sent by the Conclave as the first official medical students, practiced basic examination techniques on willing colonist volunteers. A Centaurian who had resigned from the GHA in protest worked alongside humans, sharing knowledge freely. Rachel walked through the busy facility, still adjusting to her new role as director. She had declined a prestigious position at a major research university, choosing instead to stay where everything had started. Some days, she missed the simplicity of treating cats and dogs. Other days, like today, she marveled at what had grown from one desperate father and one dying child. "Dr. Quinn, you're needed in the practical lab," Derek called out. He had been promoted to head surgical assistant and was training the next generation with the same calm competence he had shown during Pip's crisis. In the lab, the 3 young dragons were attempting to perform a basic crystalline network scan on a simulation model. They were struggling with the delicate energy calibration required. Rachel watched for a moment before stepping in to help. "Remember, it's not about power," she explained. "It's about resonance. You're trying to match the network's natural frequency, not override it." The youngest dragon, barely larger than Pip, adjusted her approach. The scanner suddenly lit up with clear readings. "I did it," she exclaimed, her scales brightening with excitement. "Excellent work," Rachel praised. "Now try it again, but this time with a damaged network simulation." Pip bounded into the room, now twice the size he had been when Rachel first met him. He had become the unofficial mascot of the institute, helping new students overcome their nervousness around different species. He wore a small vest that identified him as a therapy assistant, something he took very seriously. "Rachel, Father says we have visitors," Pip announced. His common had improved dramatically, though he still occasionally mixed in dragon phrases when excited. In the main reception area, Matriarch Cythera stood with 2 unfamiliar dragons. Both looked nervous, their scales dull with stress. Between them, they carefully supported a young dragon who was clearly ill. "Rachel," Cythera greeted her formally. "These are members of the distant clans who heard about Pip's healing. Their daughter suffers from crystal fragmentation syndrome, similar to what radiation caused in Pip. They have traveled 2 months to reach us." Rachel immediately shifted into professional mode, gesturing for them to bring the patient into an examination room. The young dragon was older than Pip had been, perhaps equivalent to a human teenager, but just as sick. Rachel began her assessment with the confidence of experience now, not the desperate improvisation of before. "The damage is extensive but treatable," Rachel announced after reviewing the scans. "We'll need to fabricate a crystal matrix specifically tailored to her network, but we've done this procedure successfully 7 times now. Your daughter will recover." The parents nearly collapsed with relief. The father spoke in heavily accented Common. "We were told dragons do not matter to the galaxy, that we should accept our fate, but the stories said humans care about any life. We had to try." "You were right to come," Rachel assured them. "Every life matters. That's not a human philosophy, it's just truth. We'll help your daughter." While preparations began for the new patient, Rachel took a moment to step outside. The colony had grown around the Institute, becoming a hub for beings from across the galaxy seeking medical care or knowledge. Species that had never interacted before now worked side by side. Bate Williams joined her, looking out at the transformed community. "This is not what I expected when I approved your work on one dragon patient." "Me neither," Rachel admitted. "I just wanted to save Pip. I didn't plan to start a revolution." "The best revolutions are never planned," Bates said. "They start when someone refuses to accept that things have to be the way they've always been." A human medical student approached nervously. "Dr. Quinn, I have a question about the lecture Dr. Mills gave on cross-species pain management. The text says dragons don't feel pain the same way mammals do, but that doesn't match what I've observed with our dragon students." "Good observation," Rachel encouraged. "What the text means is that dragon nervous systems process pain differently, not that they feel less. They're actually more sensitive to certain types of discomfort than humans are. Always trust your observations over old assumptions." The student nodded, understanding. This was the core of what Rachel taught. Question everything, observe carefully, and never let fear or tradition stop you from helping those in need. Later that evening, Rachel sat in her office reviewing the day's cases. Dravis appeared in the doorway, having to duck considerably to fit. He had taken a position as the Institute's liaison to dragon communities, helping other dragons overcome their hesitation about seeking medical care. "My people speak of you with reverence," Dravis said quietly. "They call you the healer who sees hearts, not scales. It is the highest honor in dragon culture." "I just did what anyone should have done," Rachel replied. "But you did it when no one else would," Dravis countered. "That is the difference between knowing what is right and actually being willing to do it." Pip scrambled up his father's back to perch on the massive dragon's head. "Rachel teaches that healing is about caring, not just knowing," the young dragon said wisely. "Father says that's what makes her special." "Your father is too kind," Rachel said, but she smiled. Through the window, she could see students from different worlds studying together in the courtyard. A centaurian was helping a human understand crystalline biology. A dragon was learning mammalian anatomy from a professor who 3 months ago had never seen a dragon in person. Barriers that had existed for centuries were dissolving, one interaction at a time. Dr. Mills appeared via holographic projection, materializing beside Rachel's desk. "I've been analyzing the data from all our successful crystal matrix procedures. The success rate is 94%. That's better than most established surgical techniques for any species." "We've been lucky," Rachel said modestly. "Luck has nothing to do with it," Mills insisted. You developed a systematic approach to treating conditions that were previously considered incurable. The Quinn protocols are being adopted across human space and beyond. Several Dragon medical schools are requesting permission to teach your methods. Rachel felt the weight of that responsibility. Every technique she had improvised in desperation to save Pip was now being used to help others across the galaxy. We should publish everything openly. No patents, no restrictions. Medical knowledge should be free. The Dragon Conclave agrees. Cythera's voice came from the doorway. The matriarch had arrived silently, as she often did. We are preparing a comprehensive medical database combining dragon healing wisdom with human innovation. It will be available to all species without cost. The GHA will fight this, Mills warned. Let them, Cythera said. They have already lost. When beings can choose between an institution that hoards knowledge for profit and one that shares it freely for healing, the choice is obvious. Rachel looked at Pip, healthy and happy, playing with dragon and human children alike. She thought about the young dragon patient they had admitted today, who would recover because knowledge had been shared instead of hidden. She thought about all the future patients, of every species, who would benefit from cooperation instead of isolation. It started with one dragon child, Rachel said softly. One father desperate enough to ask for help, one community willing to give it. That's all it took to prove that fear was never necessary. Compassion was always possible. Pip chirped in agreement. And now everyone knows. The galaxy is better because Rachel wouldn't give up on me. As night fell over the Institute, lights glowed in classrooms where different species learned to heal together. In treatment rooms, patients from worlds that had never trusted each other received care from mixed-species medical teams. In the courtyard, barriers dissolved with every shared lesson and every successful treatment. The small colony clinic that had treated one dying dragon child had become a beacon proving that healing knew no boundaries. That innovation came from necessity and compassion, not from credentials and politics. That the willingness to try mattered more than the certainty of success. Rachel Quinn, who had simply refused to let a child die, had shown the galaxy what was possible when someone cared enough to act. And the galaxy was listening, learning, and finally beginning to heal itself.